Every time I watch Zootopia, I am mesmerized by the living world and the complex characters that live within it. Each character has a story, real motivation for their actions, the ability to make mistakes and deal with real problems. And for Nick Wilde, what he's dealing with is his past. Yes, we left the film understanding one of the inciting incidents that led Nick down the path to being the sly and cool fox we first see, but I wanted to understand his transformative backstory more. How could an innocent fox become a cold con man? Hello, I'm Isaac from Matzo Videos, where we discuss fun topics for fun people, and today I'm going to explore the backstory of Nick Wilde to explain how he became a criminal. If you'd like to learn about Nick after the video, I've provided all the links to the movies and the resources I used in the description. And to continue discussing Disney with me, make sure to subscribe and to click that notification button. Nick Wilde was raised by his extremely supportive mother and his loving father, who dreamt of the best for their son. You see, in early concepts of the film, Nick's father, originally planned to be named John Wilde, longed to begin a family business with Nick, which I think is just one of the sweetest dreams in the world. But unfortunately, that dream never came true. His family was able to live fine when their suit store was open, but when the Happy Town district fell into ruin, Nick's family lost much of their financial freedom, and at some point, even lost Nick's father. Thank goodness he had his mother though. For the majority of Nick's childhood, he was raised by his mother, who attempted to give him as many opportunities as she could provide, including his childhood dream of being a Junior Ranger Scout. As an 8 or 9-year-old, the Junior Ranger Scouts looked like the most fun a child in Zootopia could have, so his mother scraped up enough money to buy a brand new Scout uniform to grant him the opportunity to join the local division. Nick learned to deliver the oath of the troop, and even seemed to learn some of the survival skills taught in preparation for his first day in the pack. But because he was the only predator, he was treated horribly. The initiation to join the pack turned out to be a cruel prank, and Nick was ridiculed and muzzled by the other scouts for being a fox. Yes, he was able to escape the bullies, but he couldn't escape the emotional scars he received that day, all because of a bunch of terrible kids. I can't believe people could be that mean to someone, especially when it is based on characteristics that are out of their control. And if you agree with me, comment a troubled face below. Nick was crushed by this event. From that day forward, he was tormented by the sight of muzzles, dealt with the realization his dream of being a scout was gone, and walked away with some lessons he wouldn't soon forget.
I learned 2 things that day. 1, I was never going to let anyone see that they got to me.
And 2?
If the world's only going to see a fox as shifty and untrustworthy, there's no point in trying to be anything else.
By vowing to never expose his true vulnerability to others again, making the fox seemingly emotionally unreachable, and declaring that if the world viewed Fox as nothing more than vile and untrustworthy, then he shouldn't deny it but accept it, he set himself down the path to become a sly fox. Nick pushed aside who he wanted to be and embraced and explored his strong points, including his wits, intelligence, and charisma, which granted him the ability to manipulate practically everyone he came across. He gave up bothering to worry about what anyone thought of him, allowing his easygoing, sociable, wisecracking personality to come through, giving him a sense of strength and independence. By allowing his street smarts from his days in Happy Town to be paired with his charming personality and mischievous fox stereotype, Nick quickly realized he could convince, con, and trick animals out of anything he wanted. Quickly, Nick understood, even at the age of 12, his financially struggling mother may not have to struggle with him conning on the streets.
I make $200 a day, Fluff. 365 days a year since I was 12.
But this isn't the end of Nick's backstory, fun people. Nope, his descent into crime was only just beginning. Even though he was doing pretty well for a 12-year-old as a con artist, with his newfound charisma and carefree attitude, he stayed in school to graduate high school and actually was involved and thrived. Rich Moore, one of the directors of Zootopia, even states Nick was on the track team, which is where he met Flash, his future DMV man.
Flash, 100-yard dash. Buddy, it's nice to see you.
Nice to...
His life wasn't built around this dishonest work. Yet. But because he was conning every day, he started to get into a little bit of trouble. As he should be. During his teenage years, Nick was sent to juvenile detention on some occasions, and this is where he met Finnick.
You kiss me tomorrow, I'll bite your face off.
Now, although Finnick was originally planned to be Nick's childhood best friend, in storybooks, Finnick was initially Nick's rival con artist. As an adult with high school over and a rival on the streets, who Byron Howard, the other director of Zootopia, confirmed was around 10 years older than Nick, Nick struggled to be a better con artist, forcing him to escalate his high-risk plays to make money. This need to continue to compete against Finnick unfortunately drove him tragically deeper into the crime world, especially when he made a bad bet. You see, one way Nick attempted to make money was by gambling on horse races. Just to clarify, the horses were actually in race cars and not actually running. But one day, he made a bet and lost against
The most feared crime boss in Tundra Town. They call him Mr. Big.
In his first encounter with Mr. Big, the Kingpin granted Nick 6 hours to get his money back. So Nick did everything in his power to get that money back by conning and stealing, but in the end, he couldn't make it up in time. Thus, Big's polar bears stopped Nick, and interestingly enough, Finnick too. After realizing his archenemy was in debt to Mr. Big as well, Nick promised Mr. Big he could double his money by sundown if he just gave them a chance, and Mr. Big granted them this opportunity. The two foxes worked together to save their tails from being iced by bottling water and selling it for a premium price, allowing them to pay back Mr. Big in cash that night, impressing the tiny boss. Mr. Big explained, "Perhaps you are like this cannoli. Though filling and shell separately are unremarkable, but together, Grandmama makes them sing." You know you'll be safe for a while if you're compared to a cannoli. From that day on, Nick and Finnick pulled their largest cons together, but this day was not only the beginning of a lucrative friendship between enemy con men. This day also set the foundation for Nick's relationship with Mr. Big, solidifying Nick's place in the crime world. Over time, Nick developed a stable partnership with Mr. Big, leading to the boss to trust the fox, welcoming him into his home, and even introducing him to his beloved grandmother. Eventually, though, either out of desperation to get out of the dangerous crime family, or out of sheer arrogance to how far he came, Nick did abuse Mr. Big's friendship by disrespecting the boss.
I may have sold him a very expensive wool rug that was made from the fur of a skunk. But
even though that bridge was burned, Finnick and Nick continued to con their way through the streets of Zootopia, one jumbo pop at a time. Over his life, Nick made a massive transformation away from his and his parents' values, but he had the potential to turn back. Nick got in deep with the crime underworld of Zootopia for a period of time after conning for 20 years, but this is never what he wanted. Deep down, he wants to be seen as more than a sly fox, but continues to con because his scarring childhood lessons dictate that's what he's meant to be. He lives with the tragedies he experienced as a child every day, seen through him wearing an identically patterned shirt to the wallpaper in his childhood home, and him carrying the handkerchief his mother bought him for his Junior Ranger Scout uniform everywhere he goes. Nick remembers the dreams his father had and the supportive nature of his mother, but mostly he carries the memories that led him to feed into his charisma, cunning, and manipulative ways, become a con man, and fall into the cycle of escalating crime until that crime world was where he existed. Nick remembers the bullying that helped shape him into a criminal. Oof, that was less of a fun topic and more of a dark, tragic topic, but fascinating for me to learn about all the same. And if you thought so too, then click that like button. So now it's time for the question of the day, sponsored by my patrons. To become a patron yourself, check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/WatsoVideos. Why do you think Nick betrayed Mr. Big? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section, along with any other ideas you have for future Discovering Disney episodes. If you are interested in staying up to date with more magical Zootopia videos, then click that subscribe button and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you'd like to see more Watso videos, then check out some awesome pics over here. As always, thanks for watching and have a magical day.